forget one of these with me acts.
No, I'm not working.
Hey, Sarah and Amanda, can you hear us? Sarah and Amanda, can you hear us?
Hi there.
Hi. I'm guessing that means you can hear us, yes?
You're over here. Yeah, it's cool. I've got some.
Sarah and Amanda, can you hear us?
Yeah, we can hear you. Can you hear
Okay,
us?
good. Yes, I can.
Okay, great.
I think we're just, we're gonna be a little non-traditional today, because I'm gonna leave it to start until you get checked. Not trying to take that time. Okay, I can't remember, I have to check my text, I can't remember if Brian is gonna be here or not. But once you're ready, once Sam's ready, I'll call your meeting to order. And I'll get you all started. We're obviously doing a lot of informational items before we even get to the chair. So I'll just kind of keep us rolling. And then once the chair is selected, they can move into the middle spot.
Am I allowed to say that?
Are you on?
My turn? Okay, yeah.
Any better?
You're pressed. Yeah, be both, but just a reminder, you two can't be on at the same time or that speaker's gonna pick you both up. So make sure that one's at least off.
Okay.
But what about our big duet?
I'm so sorry. You're just a CT. You're gonna have to come up and it's just gonna have to be a thing. Hey, thanks.
I was just gonna say there's a ton on the agenda, so to the extent folks can keep their comments very short and saying this to everyone and avoid tangents, that will get us out of here before it's, yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Agreed. All right, are you all ready? We will call the PROSAB meeting to order for March 16th at 7:02 p.m. Present, we have Sam, Kat, Alex, CT, Casey. Online is Brian, and I know that Jesse will be a little late, and I don't believe that Brian is joining us, but I can confirm. Oh, I'm sorry, Brian's online, so never mind, Brian. You're not here in the room. So the first thing on the agenda is going to be Sarah and Amanda. They have to leave. So Sarah and Amanda, we're going to do a quick update for us, so I'll turn it over to the two of you.
Hey guys, how you doing? Yeah, so we're excited to be here with y'all. And sorry, we know we're gonna keep this quick, but we just wanted to do an update for y'all and let you know kind of where we're at in the process of this project and helping update PROST. So I want to make sure if you haven't seen it that y'all saw we replied to this meeting agenda with kind of a quick summary and with our first half draft just to if anyone would like to take a look at that if they haven't yet. And we suggested that you should start by looking at the objectives and the report outline. But yeah, just to kind of remind everyone what we're here to do. So we're helping y'all to look at your previous post to evaluate and assess where y'all have met goals. And we're also looking to specifically analyze how ADA compliance is being met in parks from a high level. And also looking at the trail gaps and barriers throughout the town. And all of this as a way to give an update to the current status of parks and trails for PROST so that we can give some recommendations and that we know moving forward what the next full PROST master plan should focus on. And so this primarily what we've been working for or working to up until this point. We've been working on what is the first half of the report, which is essentially just the background information. We've done some lit review, we've looked at some case studies, and we have started to review the comprehensive report from more basic level, and then we'll start getting into that more. And then we have also laid out our methodology for those updates, those specific deliverables that we're going to be providing in the second half of the report. And I think that's a good spot to leave it. So let me know if you have any quick questions, if I've left anything out. And just to let you know, we all just met with Kat and Nikki and Alex on I'm already forgetting what day it is. It was Tuesday to check in on this draft that we've just shared with you. They shared some feedback with us, and so we're going to start incorporating those suggestions, and we'll let you know when the next update is.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. And I think also just another good point to help keep everyone on track, just from a timeline perspective. As Sarah's mentioned, we sort of just completed this background research phase, and we are looking to be on the ground doing the analysis, pretty much for the next upcoming few weeks. So that's what that looks like. And then we're hoping to have those deliverables completed and in a packaged form by the first week of May. I think that's it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, at this point, we welcome any questions or comments. We'd be happy to answer them.
Hi, Al. Thanks for that. What's the best way to give you feedback if we have any? Should we mark up your document and send it back to you, or what?
Yeah, please feel free to do so. Email is definitely the best way. Yeah, and our names are on that email chain. We're the only UCD emails on there. So yeah, please feel free to respond to that.
Yeah, and also in terms of being able to incorporate that feedback, I would say if you could get it to us, this next week is our spring break, and then we will be returning the week after. I'm forgetting the exact day. That's the 27th. If we could get feedback around that time, we'll be able to actually incorporate it into our process moving forward. Otherwise, after that point, we're kind of getting into the crunch mode, if that makes sense.
So do we just want to start with really quick PROSAB board member comments, and then we'll turn it to public comment. So
Yeah. Okay. No, I mean, it partially, I'm not right.
yeah,
I personally just wanted to pop in and say thank you so much to Amanda and Sarah for all of your work, and also to really encourage if anyone on PROSAB wants to, this is a really good time to dip into this first draft. It's long, but I think it's really worth it for all of us to understand what the project is. And as we clarified at our last meeting, the project is one step towards updating the Trails Master Plan, but it is not an update to the Trails Master Plan. So that's something really important to understand. And I would suggest looking at the email and the draft that they sent around, it's like a step before that. And it is very much in line, according to what Nikki said at our last meeting, with what the Parks team needs and wants, and on really good track. So all I would say is now is a really great time to dip in to look at the thing and give some feedback to Sarah and Amanda, who've done a ton of work on it.
any other board member comments or questions?
I believe there was
Yep, we'll do board members first, and then we'll go to public comment. Ryan, anything from you online? Anything else? I guess you were gone.
Nope.
Okay, May, do you want to come on it? Sure. Just be sure to press the button.
Hi, I'm May Gerald. I've lived in Ned since 1988, and I live in a little-known area of Nederland that we put in our Envision 2030 Parks subcommittee. We designated the Old Town Shop site as a potential park, and I've had a chance to talk to the neighbors, including Jeanette Smith, who's quite an old timer, and she really likes the idea of calling it the Griffith Park after the Griffith family for whom the park is named. And I understand you guys have been working on this, and I wanted to encourage you, especially now. There are two things that get me out of my house and my comfort zone, and to you tonight. One is, I know the town is contemplating a second bridge, and I think they're going to talk about that on Tuesday. I went on the bridge tour, and if it's on Snyder Street, it's going to cut out a bunch of wetlands over at the top of Chipeta Park. Like when you come into the parking lot, the bridge access would go straight to Conger. So there's a really dense patch of wetland habitat there that would probably get destroyed. The Dyer's location is right on South Beaver Creek. So it is an opportunity to maybe do some land management to increase its ability to hold water in the event of a flood. It's also a place where the town dumps the snow from my corner, so it's actually probably could get some willows and a wetland environment over there without diverting the stream. The other thing that makes it really critical to think about it, and I really wanted to throw it out and get your initial feedback on whether you had considered it and whether you would consider it, because at this point, apparently, Miranda, I thought I heard you say last night on the tape after I got home that you're considering an 80 space parking lot over there. And yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, so it's just something that the board can consider. It was on the planning commission's recommendation for developed parking as temporary parking until that lot is developed.
Well, I have emailed you and mentioned that the oil residue on the lot there gets scraped up with the snow and is being scraped right into the creek right now. There are some contamination issues with that make it unsuitable for building, and it is a medium density residential location. And this issue has been raised before, Miranda. Do you remember the meeting where all the citizens turned out and said, we live in a medium density residential neighborhood. We don't mind moving over for Frozen Dead Kaiser and other days parking, but it's impractical for me to put parking there when the town center is right there and they're asking for parking. So I just wanted to encourage y'all to come and take a tour, kind of let your imagination expand the willows and the wetland there. I can tell you from living there for over 30 years that the moose, the deer, they love it. We've had moose giving birth right behind my house, and they go right over there to water. So we kind of like to have maybe a little bit of a Native American focus as well as Chipeta, or some way to complement the other parks and kind of make it real wildlife friendly. I want to see a basketball hoop up there, but that's all stuff that could be talked about. It's really a very promising location, and when the shop came down, you can really appreciate the beauty of the valley when you look out down towards Nederland. It is one of the first things people see as they drop down the highway from Estes Park. When you do that big horseshoe curve, right now you see the trailer park. And
I beg your pardon, who currently owns the lot?
the town owns the town shop, and the trailer park is owned by Rishon. And I have two ideas for that area. One is just the town shop site, and another one is to maybe try to wrap some low-income housing, which the neighborhood is traditionally supported, into the trailer park area, maybe get a donor. You know, we always think about the Walmart family or somebody that might want to sponsor something really creative and wonderful and balance out that loss in habitat, critical wetland habitat that we're bound to lose I'm sure that you can speak more to that about the habitat loss if they do go forward with a bridge, which as I understand it is necessary. I know that's under debate. Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions about the site? You guys all know where it is? Have you talked about it as a group?
It hasn't really come across our discussion, so thank you for bringing it up. And now we have it on our radar for sure.
Well, thank you. And I was searching the webpage, maybe Miranda can orient me here. I couldn't find a packet for tonight. And I've been watching for I saw you were going to be studying how to qualify to be a park or something like that. I wanted to read that, so do I just sign up for the mailing list, or how would I do that?
So PROSAB doesn't have agenda packets, they are agendas only, same with SAB. And so it's on Civic Web, this is the same location as the Board of Trustee packets and the Planning Commission packet.
The agenda.
Mhm.
Well, how would I be able to make comments to the board or interact, see the draft plan? Is that open to the public to view, or is that?
So the board hasn't gotten to that, you may have to turn off some of your mics, the board hasn't gotten to that place of having any sort of draft ordinance about what designates a park. There was just a preliminary conversation, but you can email this group at PROSAB, and I can send this to you, prosab@nederlandsco.org.
Okay.
But they have not started any sort of draft ordinance regarding park designation as a zoning change.
And I think if I may, so I think it may be, so the project that we were just having a presentation on from the students is, I think, maybe slightly different. It's related, it's for sure, but slightly different than we will have a discussion item later on a particular open space area that some folks are interested in moving forward with some clarifying designation on. So, and that it's totally possible that may lead to a larger conversation. So I think it's relevant for a bunch of different conversations that we're having tonight. So I definitely appreciate you bringing it up. And I think, yeah, PROSAB at Nederland. Yes,
Yeah.
I should know.
I'll send it.
The email is a great way, and in future, the meeting agendas will indicate, and after this meeting, I think we'll probably have a little bit more clarity on sort of what that project looks like, which we haven't gotten to yet. So I think, at the end of this meeting, we may have some more helpful information for you.
Well, I've been working with Nicole Sterling, and is she your liaison with the board?
Jesse Stevens is there.
Oh, it's Jesse, okay. Anyway, Nicole and I have been working on different ways to inform the public about issues before the town. So maybe we can find out how we can help with PROSAB too, when you're ready to put something out there and get comment on it, even put a meeting on at the library.
I think we really appreciate that.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Anything else for Amanda and Sarah? Any other public comment? Okay, well, Amanda and Sarah, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys, much appreciated. And we look forward to some of those responses.
Thank you.
And I just want to clarify on the agenda, I did do informational, I'm doing informational first, just because Amanda and Sarah had to go, and then we'll get back to minutes towards the end. So I think the next up, we have Bill Eichler here, and I'd like to go ahead and turn it over to him.
So this is a map of what Mud Lake looked like.
So Bill, they won't be able to hear you online unless you're in the microphone.
I don't know. Before it was open space, here's the pond.
So for those of you online, Bill is pointing to what Mud Lake used to look like, and unfortunately we won't be able to show this.
It was subdivided into 7 building sites
Will you press the push button?
down here.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. And I want to let you know right off that I totally support what you've done so far as keeping the ball rolling on the open space that you've named Tammy Forest Open Space. And I have been a big proponent and a defender of that open space since 1999.
Let's clarify that just so people aren't confused.
Beg your pardon?
It hasn't officially been named, right?
We've only had
Correct.
one single
Just one.
discussion.
That's what you're calling it.
It's okay, otherwise there'll be like an article in the Mountaineer about it and be like, look, it's named, and everybody will be confused.
Yeah,
Okay.
just to clarify, we've had an initial discussion on it, but we've not had any votes or any formal moments.
I thought that was set in stone. Okay, well, regardless, the way Mud Lake came about, I don't know, you're familiar with the history of all this. It was purchased in 1999, and I had actually approached Ron Stewart, who was the head of Boulder County Open Space, in 1999, before it was purchased by the town and Boulder County. And he said it was too expensive, we can't buy it. Some other people approached him. A few months later, the town and Boulder County and Wild Bear came up with this plan to buy Mud Lake. And the way they were going to finance it was putting in houses, and they also wanted to put in an industrial park. That's right, an industrial park, where Indian Peak subdivision is now. And if you look at this map, it's got what town, which was cut off. This is Indian Peaks. This is where Lenz Excavating, the bus barn, the propane company, you name it. They were going to move everything up here. Well, as you can imagine, Hilltop Terrace neighborhood where I live and Sunnyside went ballistic because they had never discussed this with anybody. They just unloaded it. So we formed a citizen group called Nederland Neighbors, and we had discussions and negotiations for several months to get to a point where it was okay, at least with everybody. So the situation you have now with the Indian Peak subdivision being where it is and the bus barn being where it is over on Ridge Road and the town shop, that all happened as a result of negotiations over Mud Lake. And the area on this map called Mud Lake South Open Space, and you have that in your packet. That's in a intergovernmental agreement that was formed between the town of Nederland and Boulder County. And in that IGA, it states that anything that wasn't going to be commercial or residential was going to be open space. So the original name of it was South Mud Lake Open Space, not Indian Peaks Open Space, which is what got in the paper. So also in this land was annexed. If you look at the bottom of the map, well, actually right under the word South Mud Lake Open Space, you see a line there. That's where the town border used to be. And in the annexation, it was moved up to Indian Peaks Drive. So when I moved in, if you look at the map, I'm number 90 or 61 on Tejas Lane. I was looking at having one neighbor on 35 acres. So that all changed when it was annexed. And in these negotiations, if you look further in your packet, you can see a map called Mud Lake Open Space. This was just one of several iterations of what this initial plan was with industrial or commercial use and houses. And I lobbied heavily to keep development out of this open space we're talking about. And eventually only Len Cole's Excavating, which is now the Caribou Room, was sited on that site. And if you look back at this map, actually I've got I live right here, and this is the social trail that leads from Tejas Lane down into the open space and then over to Mud Lake. For those of you who are online, I live right next to the social trail that goes into the open space. I've been there for 24 years. It starts at the corner of my property and veers off a little bit. And it's never really been a problem. People walk through, sometimes you can hear their voices, but it's not a steady stream of people. And frankly, I'm amazed that nobody's ever built on that parcel. It's a 2-acre parcel. It's not 2 separate parcels. And it's been undeveloped for 24 years. And I'm just thinking every year somebody's going to buy it and build a house, but they never have. So I am okay with it staying that way. And I understand from reading in the paper that you have proposed getting an easement from the owner so that that trail remains. Is that correct?
It's something that we've talked about.
That's something you've talked about.
Here, Mike.
It's something the board has discussed, but very much like the name of this parcel, it is not something that has been set in stone or.
Okay. Okay. The only drawback to that I can see is that if you contact the owner and say you want to put a trail in there, they could say no for a number of reasons. I think it's a long shot that they would approve of that. If they don't, they may react and just totally fence it off and just say no trail at all. That is a very likely outcome. The only other way into the open space is through the town water tank site. And that's on this map right here, under water tank. And there are residences on either side of the water tank. The Winters live to the east, and then Michael and Debbie live to the west. And I've talked with both of them and to let them know that this is a possibility that a trail could get put through there because the water tank is town property and was actually drawn in as a possibility for an access to this open space when it was first created. And I don't know if they've responded to you with their feelings about that, but if you do approach the owner of the parcel where the social trail goes through, it would be good to have a plan B, because if they close it off, then there's no access and we'll have people walking through my yard to get to the open space. That's what'll happen, and they'll walk through all the yards because there won't be a way in. So that's my top priority in speaking to you tonight, is access to that. My other priority is the trails in there. They're all social trails that are made by users. They were made at different times, and they don't really all make sense. Those trails could be redone in a more cohesive way so that they're integrated better. You can see on the map, there's an east-west trail, a dotted line that could be lined up better. There's also a trail through the parcel next to me that's almost totally on private land. It could be rerouted over towards to get to Joe Smith Park. So there's a lot that can be done. And over by the Caribou Room, there's 2 trails about 100 yards apart. One of those could be eliminated because they're redundant. And one thing I would like to bring up, there's 2 pages, there's 2 letters, one from Lee Tillotson and one from myself, dated about 2000. And we were very concerned about the wetlands and the rare flowers that grow in there, excuse me, called wood lilies. And so since that time, I've actually defended this area several times from encroachment. In the year 2010, the town was losing money on their water system, and they wanted to sell 2 lots out of this open space to pay for the indebtedness of the water system. I confronted them with that, and I think they realized that they weren't going to be able to pay for the water system, which was underwater, if you will, by selling off town property. So they raised the water rates, and those lots remained undeveloped. Much later, the town wanted to widen School Road, and by then the town knew about the wood lilies that live in that open space. And so they said, well, we don't really know for sure if they're there. We just know stories. So they hired Grant Orther to do a survey, and she GPSed 49 wood lilies. These are rare plants. They're registered with the state of Colorado, and it's just an amazing resource for the town to have that. And there, she also identified several other rare plants that grow in there. So the town decided not to widen the road because there's wood lilies. One other item I'd like to bring up is that there was talk about doing some more clearing in that open space. I had this discussion with Chris, and I wanted to bring up that this parcel has been heavily mitigated in the year 2014. This was done by Boulder County. They came in with a big machine. They did let us know ahead of time that they were going to do this, and the neighbors were by and large in favor of it, even though, you know, it broke our hearts that they were going to cut down hundreds of trees. This is now a fuel break for our homes. They wound up chipping, and but they left the wetlands intact. And one of the reasons for that is I walked those wetlands with a naturalist named Dave Halleck, and he said, you need to make this border here in order to preserve the integrity of that resource. I also walked it with Scott Golden, who headed up the project for Boulder County, and he said he was actually going to leave that anyway. So that area is there because of a good reason, because it protects that wetland area. There are down trees in there, mostly running east and west, and it creates almost like a natural fence to keep people from, you know, tromping through there. So I would recommend if you do cutting, don't cut in there. There are down trees in the area that was already mitigated. Those could be removed because that's already been mitigated, but I would leave the wetlands alone. And then one last item, after the wildfire mitigation, Canadian thistle starts sprouting up and yellow toadflax, and you've heard about Canadian thistles, invasive species. Well, they were starting to take over the open space. So my wife and I and some of the neighbors for a couple of years pulled them, cut them, and we weren't getting anywhere. So we contacted the town, and Ray Orther came in and sprayed them with a hand sprayer and got rid of 95% of them. But that was 2019, and they're starting to come back. So we have again gone and cut them down and pulled them, but we can't keep up with it. So I'm advocating that the town again considers spraying like with a hand sprayer. I'm not a big advocate of spraying weeds, but it's really the only effective way to get rid of Canadian thistles. The worst of them are, if you see between the caribou room and that space between that and the Hilltop Terrace neighborhood, they're pretty intense in there. Anyway, I probably used up like 10 minutes, so I thank you. And if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Well, number one, thank you for your time, and thanks for presenting. I think we all got I got a history of Mud Lake that I didn't know about. And then I just had a clarifying question real quick is, are you particularly in favor of seeing the trails updated in there in any particular way that you described, or just, it was sort of like, if you look at it, you know, then they could be updated, but is that something you'd like to see? I just wanted to.
Which particular trail?
Yeah, the walking trail, like the social trails that are in there.
The social trail that starts from Tejas and goes.
Yeah, the one that starts from Tejas and goes across.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, where it is, it's fine, but it's on private land.
Right, and so that kind of doesn't seem to make a ton of sense. If we can get it
Yeah.
off private land, that would be better.
Yeah, so where it is, it's actually through an area that is not heavily treed, except for a small part of it. So it's kind of a natural walkway. Objectively speaking, the trail from the water tank makes more sense. If you look at it, It drops down from the water tank. You can put a couple switchbacks and winds up almost across from where the Mud Lake trails start. So instead of walking to the end of Tejas Lane, where I live, and then dropping down and then walking back the other way to Mud Lake, this actually drops down essentially right to Mud Lake. But I would see that only as a possibility, as if this current social trail gets blocked off. But if you're going to proceed with naming the open space and dedicating it and calling a lot of attention to it, I think you're going to have to solve the problem of access from Tejas Lane. Otherwise, people are going to be coming through private property. So
Thank you.
I hope that answered your question.
It does, and then there's just one more follow-up.
Sure.
That is, CT clarify me, because this has kind of been your baby, if you will, but possibly. You have another baby that's amazing. Yes, is it,
For the record.
are you in support of naming it over the Tammy Forest open space? I just want to clarify that so we know where you stand on that.
Oh,
Or not in support, either way. Just want to clarify.
I was,
We need to go on the record. Yeah, yeah.
It's not necessary to.
I was under the impression that that had already been
I think
decided.
you emailed us suggestions for other folks to name it after. Was that you? Yeah, so we have that.
Okay.
He's emailed us already.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. Like,
On the other hand, Tammy is a friend of mine, and I don't want to cause her grief, because it's already named after her.
Well,
And, and I mean,
I would like to go on the record, local year-based publications that may be listening. We have not decided on
Yeah.
naming. We have, however, reached out to Ms. Forrest to gauge whether or not she would find it acceptable for that to happen.
okay,
It is very possible that in my many discussions about this, I have overstated the board's position, but officially, by the letter of the law, we have not decided on a name. That would be a topic of discussion here.
and also for the record, excuse me, it doesn't have to be named after a person. You could call it the Aspen Grove Open Space or whatever. And maybe this would be a way of getting the town involved. So I'm not set one way or the other on that. That's the least of my concern. My big concern is the access and just making some sense out of the trails, protecting the wetlands. That's my main thing.
Thank you very much. And putting together these materials was an effort, and it's very much appreciated.
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad. Okay, well, thank you very much. And
Thank you for letting me know about the weeds. I'm doing a little bit of weed mitigation work this year. So Ray has been teaching me her skills and tricks and tips. So our team is gonna kind of take that over. I do have a company too that I can hire out, but it will be very low impact type spraying.
I understand she uses the least invasive kind of spraying that she can. And after spraying, I can tell you, I haven't really noticed any effect on the wetlands. And I will be glad to show you where they're coming back.
Great.
Okay,
Bill, I just want to I'm going to open it up to public comment, and so if anyone has questions, I don't know if anyone in the room, Jason or May, you have any public comments about this? Do you want to come to the mic though, May, so people can hear you? Thanks.
I'm intrigued by all of this because I used to frequent all those trails a lot myself. So I just had a question for y'all or for you. I know that water tower trail access was part of the Caribou Village deal, and it's never worked for me with my horses or with my kids, because in order to get there, you gotta traverse the road, which is like, what, 60 feet wide or something. So it's not a very gratifying nature experience. Maybe I'm lacking the route, but if you come up from the school, for example, and you want to go to Mud Lake, you can either go down by the ice rink. Are we talking about the same place?
I'm not sure we are.
Because the water tanks, aren't they up there by Caribou Ridge?
That's a different water tank.
Oh, you're talking about a different water tank.
This is the water tank in my subdivision, Hilltop Terrace.
It's mostly berries.
It's an older water tank.
Okay. Because I wasn't making sense out of that.
And I know we have some members of the public online. Does anyone have any quick public comment on this item? Well, Bill, thanks so much. Is there anything else, CT? And
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, this is a discussion item.
It's just an informational item. It could be a discussion if you wanted to too. I wasn't
Yes,
sure.
I would like it.
Okay, you do some action items, but you're welcome to move this into a discussion if you'd like to do so now.
Can we move on to action items?
Yeah.
I mean, we can vote on how we want to proceed. That's fine.
No, that's good. Yeah, just
Yeah.
let's be
Okay.
respectful of everyone's time.
Okay. So we do have two informational items that are staff updates. We can also break this agenda up. To your point, I would love to get to your chair and your vacancy appointments. So if you're okay, maybe we go action right now, then to discussion, and then finalize, to finish with these informational updates, and I'll dive into the staff report. So two big action items for tonight. The first is your chair appointment, so that someone else can lead this meeting. So we'll start there, and then you also have your vacancy bill as well. So for chair appointment, I think the best way to go about this is for those of you who are interested in the chair to state so, and then share with the board why you're interested. And then you can go on to an additional discussion, ask questions of one another, and then ideally there should be a formal vote that is. So, put out there, who is interested in chair? Sam? Okay. So, maybe we can start with Sam. Do you want to tell the board why? Oh, and I just want to make sure, Brian, are you, I think Brian said no when I texted him. Brian, just want to make sure online. You're not interested.
That's right. I'm not interested.
Okay, Sam, you want to go ahead and go first?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm been a part of the board now for, I think, about a year, roughly. And I've enjoyed it. I think the future of the parks in, of Nederland is in the parks. It's in what we're all doing here. And I would be honored to be the chair, but I'll also say that I'm not offended either way. And I'm happy to be on the board, and I support whoever we vote for chair, and I'm just looking forward to collaborating and, making these things that we all want to see happen together and in the best way possible that the community values and is excited about. And I think I've learned a lot over the last year of how things operate, and now I would feel comfortable being in that position. And I'll keep it kind of short and sweet. I'd be honored to do it. And like I think the big takeaway is whoever is the chair is fine by me.
I think my speech will be very similar to Sam's. I think we have an amazing board, and so similarly, I think I'm excited for whomever takes over the gavel is pretty awesome though, so I do have to say. But yeah, I think also similarly, it's been about 6 or 7 months since I've been on the board now, and now I think I sort of understand what's happening and feel like I have some experience to bring. I think we were all surprised when Jesse stepped down, but I think it's also, always an opportunity for new folks to take the gavel. So yeah, my work background involves a lot of sort of meeting facilitation and sort of group facilitation and that sort of thing. So I did, it did occur to me that could be an interesting skill to bring to bear. And yeah, I really love what this team has the potential to do and is doing, and would like to put my name in the hat. And also very similar to Sam, totally fine with whichever way things end up going. So
let me just offer, so PROSAB has actually in the time I've been here, never had the chair vice chair structure, but it is in your bylaws that you could have a chair and a vice chair. Sam is currently your secretary, so someone else would have to resume that role, but those are the 3 officer positions that you have. But we've only ever done a chairperson previously, so just putting it out there for you to consider if you want to.
Can we take a moment just to discuss the pros and cons of that? And have you seen it on any other boards?
Every board has a chair and a vice chair except for PROSAB.
Oh, well, it kind of seems like we should have one.
I think the one benefit is when there's no chair, you automatically have a default of who will chair.
It's a bad.
It's a good
It
idea.
also allows us to have meetings often with the chair and the vice chair, and that is not a sunshine law, and so you have the dual. I think Jessie carried a ton by doing it herself, and I think Nikki, maybe I don't want to speak for you, but I do think we see value in having often 2 people to connect with it, because I think if one person gets busy, we get stuck a little bit if we can't connect with that one chairperson.
Yeah, I was thinking, because I know Sam is the set, like, I also think having all 3 positions clarified, coming out of, if possible, coming out of this would be really ideal, so we can really have like a fully functioning, everyone's knows what their thing is as well.
Right.
And I'll add, as secretary, I finally figured out, like as of this meeting, a good system for meeting minutes. I'm just putting them below the agenda on the same document, so they're just immediately available as of now.
What would be required for us to make this change to our?
You don't have to, it's already in your bylaws.
Oh,
It's just something we haven't been taking advantage of.
I mean, is one of you, knowing that, is one of you inclined towards vice chair over chair, or?
Yeah,
There's-
no, that's a good question.
Yeah,
Yeah. I really don't mind, and like, I think that's a great structure, and you know, if I'm realistic with my life, I have a baby right now, and so it would make sense. I don't know what I'm sure you're super busy in that, but
No babies, no.
okay, it would probably make sense to do vice chair.
for you.
Yeah, I think it would be better for the board, and then like I can be very supporting in that role, but I just know that I've learned over the last 4.5 months that like expectations wise, I need to adjust them just slightly. Like, and so I would be just fine being vice chair, and I think it creates that supportive structure. It sounds like we can accomplish all the things that we want to do on this board. I don't know how to do that.
I think that would be awesome.
Should we?
Does
that okay?
does any board member have questions for your chair and vice chair candidates?
I move that we accept Kat Barr as chairperson, PROSAB, and Sam Work as vice chair.
Great. What about, do you want to just handle vice chair and chair and then we'll roll into secretary, or do you
Yeah,
want to,
just
okay,
take care of that.
do you have a second?
I second that.
Great. I'll do a roll call vote. And so Casey, just for clarification, when we're short, because normally there were 7 people would be able to vote, but since we don't have 7 to vote. So, starting with Casey, it's really well, thanks. I'm getting some minutes over here. Yes or no? So Casey?
Yes.
Perfect. CT?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Jesse? Severs, Jesse?
Yes.
Okay. Sam?
Yes.
Kat?
Yes.
Okay, well, Kat, if you want to scoot over and I'll let you take this over. Congratulations. Thanks for the minutes. So, Kat, if you would, I'm happy to continue to lead if you want, but if you want to take this over.
Just go here.
So you don't technically have secretary appointment on your agenda, but you could discuss it and then we could solidify it at the next meeting under kind of a consent.
Got it. So you're saying we can't vote on it, or?
You want to vote on it because it's not an action item on your agenda, but you can discuss it and we'll confirm it next time.
Is anybody interested in being secretary?
Just so everybody knows, I'm currently secretary. The main thing that you do as the secretary is take the meeting minutes and send them to everybody. You can do it however you want. I think I finally came up with a good solution, which is put them under the PROSAB agenda that is currently happening in Google Docs, but just immediately available afterwards. It's taken me a while to come up with that solution. Sure.
And then now we have the Google folders too, so it's
Right.
easy to just pop them in there.
Which is great. So that's the main thing. I'm happy to continue to do it until somebody's interested in doing it.
I don't think that'll work, right? Vice Chair?
If he wants to, he can.
I'll gladly let someone else do it. It's kind of a cool way to be engaged with it.
You know, I would say a couple things when it comes to minutes. You have options. Some board members are very thorough with their minutes. Others just do action-oriented minutes because you have the recording as your backup. Board of Trustees and Planning Commission, we've moved to action-oriented minutes only. So it's really just documenting your motions.
Dope.
And what happens if you recommend that, sorry, Sam, I'm telling you now, that you recommend that they then watch the video for the thorough, because the truth be told, someone taking minutes is never going to accurately capture the nature of the conversation.
Exactly.
So that is why, because we have the recordings. But you do need to have a written record of at least the actions that occurred. So it could be someone just doing very quick motion pieces.
As a new board member, it's a pretty cool.
Oh,
I'm saying.
I guess you could wait until you to take point someone else.
I'd be interested. I just didn't know.
No, if you're not, it's
No, I'm like a prolific note taker, so I already started doing that on the agenda, so I feel like I'm halfway there. But I just wasn't sure if my alternate status somehow limited me in terms of like other responsibilities.
No, we would just want you in attendance at every meeting, even if you were a non-voting member.
Okay.
So as long as you feel comfortable committing to that.
I think I can. I know I'll be out. Is it every third Thursday?
You are allowed, you are allowed to vacation.
Okay.
Someone else
Have some third
can
Thursdays.
go on vacation, someone else can take over.
Otherwise, I'd be happy to serve in that
We
role.
won't put
Sorry,
the
to push that over there.
No.
Yeah, we did just get it in there. So again, we won't vote on this. What we'll do is we'll create a consent agenda item. When we prepare the agenda, we'll add a consent and stick this on there. Okay. I'll turn it over to you to do PROSAB board vacancy if you're comfortable.
Oh. Actually, since you have, well, I guess it's the.
I'm happy to.
Yeah.
I lost my ring moment. Okay, yeah.
If you could do the background and then I'm happy to.
So take this back. Obviously, we have the alternate vacancy in which Casey was recommended for appointment. At the same time, Jason, Chewy, and Lindsay also applied. At that meeting, Jesse, I'm sorry, did resign. And so I reached out to those 3 applicants and asked them if they're interested in the regular board position. They are. We have Jason in the room with us and Lindsay online. Chewy did not make it again, although was aware of the meeting. So like last time, I would recommend give them a chance to introduce themselves. They can share a little about themselves. I know Lindsay, of course, did it last time, but I'd recommend she does it again. And then Jason, unfortunately, was tied up last time. So whoever you want to start with.
Yeah, why don't we go alphabetical. I'll start with Jason.
Yeah, please.
We're excited that you're here and just want to know that even the interest is very valued.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here today with you all. I thought about what I should say if I had an opportunity to speak with each of you. And I think it's probably important for me to talk about a little background of how I even came into NED. And I'll try to be quick and then go over a little bit of my credentials, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So like a lot of us, we deal with a lot of traumas in our life. We're not immune to it, right? We have family, friends, and people we love, and things, they just happen. And sort of an incident happened to me like that in Nebraska. I spent about 10 years of my life in Omaha, Nebraska. My brother was in intelligence, military, and he's my twin. So it's likely I follow him everywhere. I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia. And when I got married, after that incident happened, I moved to Colorado. And I found a lot of respite and, you name it, from the outdoors, right? But one of my first places I visited actually was Nederland. Can you believe that? Out of all the places in Colorado I could have went to, Nederland somehow was on my radar. And I ended up going up 4th of July Road, which you all know. And then Hesse Trail is very busy, but I went up 4th of July Road. If you know me, and hopefully you become to know me, I'm a sunrise guy. I don't like to be around crowds, so I get up early in the morning. And I hike at night, and I usually get to my destination before the sun rises. And I do photography. And so some of the passions that I love, so I'm walking up there, and I've never been on this trail before. And there were still people at the trailhead, believe it or not, even at 5 a.m. in the morning. And I got a chance to see the Continental Divide, the beautiful wildflowers that was during that time. I think I was there about second week of July, typically when it pops. And the alpine lakes, the mountain glow, everything you can imagine for a trail to really give you that the endorphins, the serotonin, and the healing powers of nature that we all are very accustomed to. Probably one of the reasons why you're on this board as well. And that was it. I knew at that point that I wanted to move to Colorado, and I wanted to spend the rest of my life here. And luckily, I did move to Colorado, but albeit it was Denver, where everybody goes, right? And so to kind of speed this up, I ended up, because of the love and the things, mental health that it brought me with outdoors, I decided to start my own organization after visiting a couple outdoor retailer shows that now is in Utah. And so I met a lot of people who had the same passions as I did, and started an organization called Rising Reps. And essentially we were an environmental and social justice and mental health organization, focuses on those who were underserved and marginalized. And so, I had an opportunity to start leading hikes throughout all of Colorado, and I've been every place you can imagine in Colorado. And that led me, at the time I was in finance, so I did a lot of finance background. And then after that, I had an opportunity. I got laid off. Sometimes it's a blessing to be laid off. And I spent about 8 years, 8 months. I'd be broke if I did that. So I spent about 8 months, really trying to figure out what I wanted. I didn't know what I wanted. I knew I wanted to work in the outdoor space and, conservation and various other things. But it's very hard to get into, as some of you may know. Very hard to get in there. And so luckily, Western Resource Advocates, if you haven't heard of them, hired me to be a fellow. It was a lot less than I was making before, but I said, you know what, this is a calling of some sort, and I should jump on it. So I became a land policy analyst with Western Resource Advocates, working on equitable access to the outdoors, to decision-making and managing and limiting access for natural resource protection. As you can see, I'm pretty good at that. Had it down pat. Spent about a year doing that work, probably a year and a half, and I'll tell you why. You think, why you start a career you end so quickly? Well, I ended up creating the State Outdoor Equity Grant Program. I led a coalition, developed the language, convened a bunch of advocates and stakeholders, and collectively even Licking Hills, and that you all familiar with, and created that in 2020. And it was signed by the Governor Polis in 2021. And then I got poached by the Trust for Public Lands. My financial background allowed me to do conservation finance, which I didn't know much about. I didn't even know when I created the bill on the state level, that it was going to be, that was conservation finance. Learned all about it, and I have been doing that since. And I help local governments, municipalities, counties, you name it, various jurisdictions, to create the public funding that they want for their conservation priorities. And since then, I've been able to create approximately $240 million over the next 20 years for local governments. And currently working in Larimer County, Larimer Conservation District, Grand County, Mesa County, Boulder even, and Colorado Springs right now to pass some measures. And so that's my background. I mean, I can name all the various boards I sit on, but I think you don't want to hear me bore you to death. I think me coming to this opportunity is because I moved to Nederland about 2 years ago, off and on. And I don't know if you know Natalie Ingo, and they're really good friends of mine. And I live on 1634 Caribou Road. And since I've been down there, I decided to buy their property. And so, I know I'm going to be here for a very long time, and I want to be able to protect and make decisions on behalf of Nederland. And it's be a great opportunity to be able to get to know the town. I'm always at Crosscut and the various other places around here, even at Ned Hub. And I'm starting to meet people and shake hands, and I think this is a great opportunity to keep doing that and do something very inspiring and passionate at the same time. So thank you for your time. Oh, sorry. Any questions?
What's your last name?
Swan.
Swan.
2 minutes.
Jason, thank you so much. I'm curious what, in terms of the Netherlands Parks and Trails, like, is there one project or one area or one particular place that you're excited to be involved in supporting?
Yeah, I saw the reservoir that it receives some GOCO money, and it looks like that's under development. And I'm curious about that because it's one of the main attractions when you drive into Netherlands, right? And if that's not, done well, it'll be an eyesore for a lot of people. And so I think for me, I spend a lot of time over there with my dog and walking around, and I think that would be a huge part of me. I know Colorado Open Lands, Colorado Open Lands Trust has done protected some land here a long time ago. And I believe something's going on with that now, and I apologize, I don't know all the details, but I was talking to Tony and just letting him know about some of the work that he's done here. But to answer your question, that would be a great project to work on, or even the master plan. I think that's always curious, and I like to, I'm an analyst by nature, so to be able to delve deeper into the research is kind of my expertise and how I do my work. All right, thank you.
Lindsay, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi. I just wanted to start off by apologizing that I couldn't be there in person today. I am recovering from a small surgery that I had done this week, but that is a priority for me to be in person. I moved here about a year ago today, or it was today, not about. And apparently it always snows on March 16th. But in that year, I've learned a lot about this community and how great it is. I want to not only be a part of this great community, but serve it in a larger capacity. I think the PROSAB board is a great opportunity to do just that because our parks and our open space serve everyone, and they are places that bring the community together. My background is in project management, so being able to look at the big picture and then break it down into individual tasks while following processes and procedures and building and maintaining relationships. I've also spent 10 years specializing in analytics, leading teams, and decision making based on analytical on analytics. So that's a little bit about me. Is there any questions?
Sorry, you said project management. Could you expand on that?
Yeah, I have spent the past year plus working on many different projects. I lead 20 plus projects at a time. When you guys were talking about note taking, like that's my specialty. I also I work with anywhere between CEOs or IT professionals and lead meetings. stakeholder, identify stakeholders, things like that. So anything, the whole process from project management.
Thank you.
Lindsay, I think I asked you last time, but I don't think everyone was here last time. So similar to what Kat asked Jason, as a board member, what would you like to focus on? Is there any particular project area of interest, initiative to you?
Yeah. Maintaining and improving the current trails and parks, it would be a priority for me. The trail linkages project and the dog park that I think we're supposed to be talking about later would be interests of mine.
For you and your 4 dogs.
Yeah, for me, my board.
Thank you. Yeah.
A small dog park. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? So I think we open it up to discussion. I'm just spitballing here.
Yes.
I can't believe you. Let that off the chain at least once.
Yeah.
Well, I'll chime in here. I think number one, we are always grateful to have people interested, no matter who it is. Just the expression of interest is really something we appreciate and makes a big difference in this town. And, no matter what the outcome is, there are always opportunities to be involved. And so I just would say don't get too discouraged no matter what the outcome is. And we've got some really strong candidates, and of course, we'd love to have everybody, but we can't.
Hey, this is Brian. How many people are we voting in tonight?
Just one.
Okay, got it.
I guess my initial comment is I know there's 3 applicants, and I know only 2 have attended. So my inclination is to consider only those who have attended. I know the 3rd applicant also didn't attend the last meeting when they were up for the alternate position. So I think so much of this role is just being willing to show up, engage, participate. And I think that's something we should give a lot of weight to.
I'll agree with that.
Any other discussion on that?
Yeah, so you'll want, as a reminder, you'll want to make a motion and a vote when you're at that space. So.
Yeah. Are there any other discussions, or would anyone like to put a motion forward?
I put a motion forward that vote on these 2 candidates. Choose one from Parksboro.
So I would recommend that your motion be which one you want. You could also do a round robin where you name who you want and whoever the highest vote is appointed. Often it's a little bit cleaner just to make the motion of the person, but you do have the 2 options if you choose to want to just name who you vote for.
All right, I put forward the motion that we accept Jason Schwang to parking.
I'll second that motion.
Then do I call everybody's names?
Yeah, yes, or I can, however you like to.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so you already, so I think you have to call, yeah. Oh, we did, oh, yeah, sorry. Correct you. Chris?
Yeah, yes.
That's you. Sam?
Yes.
Casey?
Is this just where I say yes or no, or can I? Okay.
Well,
Do you want to share something?
I mean, if you.
Yeah. I just, Jason, I'm super impressed by you. I work with WRA in my real life job at the Public Utilities Commission. And I just, at the meeting last month, I know Lindsay bowed out of being considered. So I was able to get appointed and I was really appreciative of that. And so I would like to support Lindsay to get on the board just based on that. So no.
It's tough. This is a tough one.
I know, it's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your question, Mickey? Yeah, because you're still short with.
If we don't have such a
And I'll add a little comment. I think well, this is a tough one for me. Jason, the thing that is intriguing to me about your background is the fundraising aspect and the organizing around that. And I think that's something that we know like, I won't speak for everybody, that I think we would benefit from, your perspective of knowing the ins and outs of that. And that's really the main, I'd love to just bring both people on, but that's, so that's why.
So would folks like to continue the vote or go like?
So you have to finish it.
Okay. Got it. That makes sense. Oh, Alex?
Lindsay's a personal friend of mine, and I know she's super reliable and dependable and super smart. So I got the chance to meet Jason at CrossGuide, like he's talking about, so I can attest that he does hang out at CrossGuide, as do I, like all good heads. And I think your skills will be amazing, but I'll know you on the personal level that I know Lindsay. So just from having greater data about like her character and her skill set, that's no to Jason.
I call myself next. Yeah, so I really, really appreciate both applicants and the passion and the experience. And I think either way, I would love both people to be involved. Similarly, I also know Lindsay as a neighbor, and for the last year since we've met has been trying to figure out for me ways to get involved in town, basically every time that we've talked. And I think that's just a really incredible orientation to have towards one's town. And also, I think I really did appreciate that Casey raised that Lindsay did defer the appointment last time. And so because of that, I also vote no. Oh, I'm sorry, I have to keep going. Jesse.
Yes.
Oh, and then Brian, right? Is Brian the only, I can't actually see.
Yeah, Brian's your
Okay,
only
yeah.
one online.
Sorry, hi Brian.
Okay. Hi, I vote yes.
So that is 4, right?
I was not tracking Mickey.
Yes.
Yeah, Mickey.
Yes. 4 yes. 3 no. And so Jason will be the recommendation from PROSAB to the Board of Trustees.
Yeah, so just a reminder that when this goes before the Board of Trustees, they can either confirm the recommendation or they can change and recommend Lindsay or Chewy. So Lindsay, we do ask all 3 of you still go to the Board of Trustees. That'll be Tuesday, March 21st. Also hybrid, so you can join in person or virtually. Cool. Thank you.
Congratulations and thank you both very, very much.
That's a tough one.
Be lucky.
I know. We just
Huge appreciation for expressing.
sorry.
Should add a member.
Want to go odd? Do you want? You could amend your bylaws. This goes every time. You could amend your bylaws and increase to a board of 9.
Okay.
Only if Bill agrees to serve.
The one, let me just say about the board of 9, going to a board of 9 would ideally convert your alternate into a regular member. Board of 10 is a little bit much, and so typically boards of 9 don't have an alternate because it's a lot of people.
So we have board 9, and this is, we have to like definitely go between making adjustments all the time just to like feel good about it and running the board, of course, but that would mean we could have everybody who's interested in. Is there value in a board of 9? Does that become too cumbersome or does it become helpful?
So I'll tell you the DDA and planning commission are board of 9. I think boards of 9 can work if if there's willing to be action behind your assignments, again, I said last time, your parks team is a team of 4. So having a board of 9, I think my expectation of that, and Vicki, don't agree with where you feel otherwise, is that those 9 members get involved in projects, that they become active volunteers, because that's a lot of oversight for a very small team.
Yeah. Nikki, do you have an opinion on that? I mean, the way I see it is like they could be advocates for
I
you.
have an opinion on that.
Yeah.
A board of 9 is too many.
Okay.
Yeah, I think about how long the meetings can get anyway.
Yeah.
Add 2 more voices to it. It does become a lot. And, too many bosses, not enough workers. I think there's a different acronym that goes along with that, but it's a lot. It's a lot of oversight.
I think that's important to respect, I guess the other side of that is just like, people are taking action and moving different things forward that don't involve, Nikki, do this.
We'll see
Then there's the value on that side of it.
My opinion on that is that you guys all have incredible ideas that I really value and wish that I could get everything done. But when it comes down to it, I can't.
Yeah, for sure.
And adding 2 more really great ideas to a pool of that's already too much, that I'm already drowning in. So, to Miranda's point, I need you guys to volunteer. I'm gonna be putting out some lists of volunteer days. I've got 5 of them already scheduled. I'm trying to get as many teams and that's gonna be, I want PROSAB to consider that I want this board to be an active board, not just the board that tells me what to do with my little team of 3. So, look for my volunteer sign-up sheet very soon.
Well taken.
Well, thank you, everybody. So I believe we have one last informational item before the discussion.
So the 2 informational items, I think we could really tag on to Nikki's staff report. So I think if you want to go ahead and go on to discussion, that would be good. And I don't know if you want to revisit, since Bill is still here, revisit the items ET would like to, because I think the rest are just internal discussions.
Yeah, let's do that first. Is that okay? Would you like to? So it's 8:22, so maybe 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, 8 minutes.
So.
My phone says 8:22. It's 8:17. So yeah, so like 8:30.
Several members of the public word has circulated about our efforts to preserve what has been titled the South Mud Lake Open Space. And have come to realize we, at least certainly I, may have been a little bit hasty in that. And while I did reach out, as we discussed at the last meeting I was a part of, to Ms. Forrest, and she graciously accepted the possibility of us renaming this open space after her, it seems that there's some schism worthy of present on the issue. So I'd just like to take a second to talk about that and talk about ways in which we could involve the local community, but not slow down this effort. I would like to see this move forward. I'd like to see it move forward with alacrity. But yeah, open discussion.
Can I start with something? Just number one, thanks for acknowledging that, and also we appreciate what you did with it. Like, we appreciate the excitement, or I do, and I appreciate that like you're motivated and want to make something happen. And so know that it's welcomed, and I think it's good to have the opportunity for us to all be like, oh, we realize this, and learn and tweak and adjust. So.
Idea. So I know you weren't able to make the last meeting, but we talked about it just a little bit, although not a ton since you weren't there. One idea would be to figure out, we talked the idea of like maybe taking just a small working group of a couple of folks to like hammer out sort of what needs to happen between like now and the next meeting. If that's something that you're interested in. I'm not exactly sure what needs to be done, but
yeah. Well, how would that look?
I think it would depend on what needs to be done.
Well,
The idea was more just to try to figure out sort of like an active next step to be able to work on in between meetings to not delay progress.
Looking at this map that we all have conveniently in front of us. Oh, Jesse, did you get a copy of this? Well, yeah. These people are literally my neighbors. My house is on this map. I'd be happy to visit these people and let them all know our intention and let them know when the next public meeting would be where we would address this issue. Just so that we can get a more robust public involvement. But I'd like to do so with some intentionality behind it, expressed by them.
Can we just clarify what we're talking about? Because are we talking about renaming it only? Or are we talking about the idea of zoning it as a park?
Right now, what we're talking about is providing it with the same level of legal protection as our other parks, which is to say, very, very little. We're not talking about rezoning, although that absolutely should be part of our larger discussion.
Okay.
Right now, we're just talking about renaming this parcel and putting up a couple signs so that, at least in the eye of the public, the fact that this is public space, the fact that this is open space is well known, is a part of people's daily lives. And I think the sooner we take action on that, the better. I'm not talking about changing anything about the current zoning or changing anything about the current layout of the paths, although I completely agree that there's good work that can be done there. Right now, we're just talking about renaming and putting it up on a couple signs, and that is all that I'm proposing.
And then what about Bill's point that when we rename it and bring more publicity to it, per se, that will kind of cause the social trail, some pressure on the social trails? Like, is that something we need to deal with before we rename?
I would agree that it will spur more public interest and more public investigation, but I don't think that we have a choice. I don't think there's any keeping this under wraps. This is a beautiful place and a wonderful area. The Wild Bear Center is moving in. More attention will be paid to this lot. And the sooner we take action to just have it be an unlabeled public space, which basically screams, build something on it, we could take action to make sure that this space is preserved as it ought to be.
Miranda, has the town ever held any sort of like poll for this ordinance? Is that like a fun idea to like have a few different options, have like a public, so it feels like we're engaging the public? Have we ever done that?
I'm sure. We've
Yeah.
definitely done it.
Yeah.
Here's where my head goes, and when you go there, is that we are working on funding for the comprehensive plan. So tackling this separate from the comprehensive plan could be a bit confusing because the comprehensive plan is like fully set to assess what zoning should look like. That's a large part of that conversation. So I would argue this gets wrapped into that process because the board is 100% committed with moving forward with the comprehensive plan. And so you let that happen because they need to look at zoning as a whole.
But before the zoning, or just the naming?
Oh, sorry.
I think that needs
Yeah,
to be opted. Yeah.
I believe he's proposing naming and putting up a couple of signs, not rezoning.
Not-
I mean, maybe rezoning down the
This
road.
open space, this public open space already has a name. It's just a bad one.
I mean, you don't have to do us. I mean, you could put it out for a survey if you wanted to.
I have a thought on that. I think if it were me and it were my neighborhood, I think I would want to know this was happening and an opportunity to come to a PROSAB meeting and talk about it. But I don't know that it would necessarily need to be like a huge, town-wide. I
guarantee you this becomes a huge townwide something. But for the interim, what we could do is choose 3 names, one of which we have in hand, several others which have been proposed by members of the public. We go around to every house on this list and say, hey, Would one of these names work for you for renaming that lot? And we can rank order choice it, and a couple of conditions. If Tammy Forrest comes out on top, I hope she does, I'll certainly pitch it, better believe every time I go to each one of these houses. If Tammy Forrest is selected, great, we move forward with that. If one of these other names is selected, we make a best faith effort to reach out to their family and get their permission. If that can't be done, the next name on the ranked order choice goes until we either hit rock bottom and name it Mickey Mouse Open Space, or, yeah, I don't know. That's about as good as I can think to do. 3 names, go around to everyone in the neighborhood and see what they think.
Just name it after the wood lily.
Oh, good.
Not maybe after a person takes a lot of the complications out, because then you don't have to like.
I mean,
speak of
to
people.
name it Trail Tammy Forest Trail
Mhm.
and have Tammy Forest Trail because she started the trail.
That's exactly how it's started, yeah.
But the open space is really, we want it to be the open space because of the wood lily. So
Idea.
Do you like wood lily open space? Like,
Bill,
just a thought.
Bill, do you wanna
I would like,
jump up there so that people can hear you?
I would like to draw the least attention to the wood lilies as possible, because people will be going there to look for them. And they will be trampling the ones that aren't open yet, looking for the wood lilies. It's a double-edged sword, you know, like when you call attention to something, you get more interest, but that can have impact too. I like your idea, but I would vote against that. Yeah.
Well, if we had designated trails and people were staying on the designated trails, they theoretically wouldn't be trampling our.
I know, but if you're calling attention to that, I just, give me like 30 seconds here. There were 4 wood lilies in Mud Lake. The trail where the big trees are, I don't know if you're familiar with that, these big spruces and the huge ponderosa. There were 2 on one side and 2 on the other. They're not there anymore because people could see them and you could see where they had walked to them, and either they had been picked or trampled or whatever. So yeah, they're gone. So I would not call any more attention to that. And I like your idea of a couple of signs and a name and not drawing a huge amount of attention to it, because it's a neighborhood, it's mostly neighborhood use.
Yes.
And I don't want like people driving up to this open space, you know, to check it out. It would be great if people would walk up there and take their mountain bikes, but it's mostly a neighborhood use or the surrounding subdivisions. So I like your idea, more low key, but keeping it preserved and maintained as an open space.
So in the interest of being able to get to the other agenda items, what would be helpful for you to have from us to be able to move forward with sort of figuring out between now and the next meeting, what the next steps are?
3 names for this open space. If neither one gets a plurality above 30%, I'll put up some signs that say South Mud Lake Open Space.
Well, I think, and that, but you were saying at the beginning of our hope, you wanted to, since I know we haven't actually yet voted as a board, whether or not this project is something that we want to support. So I think that is
Okay.
probably, if I'm,
Oh, yeah, no, that sounds good.
I mean, that does seem
Taking
like
the
kind of the
approach, do we
first,
want to support the project as a board?
it gives it a bit
Yeah.
more weight, right, than an
Yeah.
individual.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And then we can, then we can vote on the, sort of the approach to proceed, essentially, or give the permission, or like the approval, kind of endorsement.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, I think to date it's been discussion only, so I don't know if we can do action items if they weren't on the agenda.
You can make a motion to move it discussion. Well, this was an informational, technically move to a discussion. You should have do an official motion to move it to an action. If you want
I
to.
would like to make an official motion to move this discussion item to an action.
That's information discussion item, because we didn't make a motion to move it to discussion.
Official motion to make this
Informational discussion item?
Informational discussion item into an action item.
Got that, Sam? No. Or Casey? No. Yeah, got that?
Oh, I got it. I got you.
I think Sam's gonna change
Got that, Sam? Someone?
Totally.
Okay.
And if you could just, I think, clarify what.
You want to finish your second and your vote,
Okay.
and then,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. To move it to an action.
I
Oh,
second
we're doing
that.
Okay, great.
and Kat, I think you can do all in favor,
All in favor?
things like that.
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Everyone? Great.
Aye.
And then, yeah, if you want to clarify what it is that you're asking PROSAB to support.
I'm asking PROSAB to support an effort to rename what is currently the South Mud Lake Open Space to a new name. In order to facilitate public engagement on this issue, I would like PROSAB to furnish me with 3 names, one of which being the already discussed Tammy Forest, that I might bring to the folks on this map and ask them if they would support one of these names or an additional name, or if they would not support moving forward on this at all. I'll come back with the results of those discussions to the next board meeting. I'll also inform everyone on this map that this board meeting is going to take place, so if they have other issues relating to this topic.
Let me just add in one question so that it's on the record.
Yeah.
Can you just clarify the sort of intent and motivation behind doing this so that everybody's clear on that once more?
To preserve what is currently the South Mud Lake open space and its access to the wilderness and the wildlife adjacent to our town for future generations.
Thank you.
So I think in the interest of time, and so you can move forward, I would be in favor of voting on something like that, minus providing you with the 3 names, because I think that's something that can be done offline.
Okay.
And could be the next step that we could engage on. I don't know how that affects the timeline, but I don't think we can probably figure that out here tonight. But folks can.
Yeah, the other thing I was going to ask is, I don't see how the preservation of South Mud Lake is related to the renaming of South Mud Lake. They seem to be different issues. And I wasn't at the previous meeting when we possibly talked about the naming of it itself, but I think it'd be useful to separate those two so that we could maybe vote on them separately.
Okay.
Is the idea by naming it and putting up more signs, it will feel more established, and even though it won't actually be more protected, it will have a dissuading effect on any development efforts. Am I summarizing that?
Yes, awaiting the force of law that will hopefully come from rezoning in the future.
Right.
This is a step that we could take that would help add value to the area in public.
So Brian, they are kind of related a bit.
Okay, fair enough. So I guess if that's the case, then I think that one of the name options should be retaining the name that it has now, perhaps. So I haven't heard a great argument yet for why that needs to change, I suppose.
Well, I suppose that would prevent us having to track down the name of anyone. I don't think it's named after the South Mud family.
Brian, I think that's a good point that you bring up, just uncoupling the two and how they, understanding how they do relate. And I think you did a good job helping us understand how they could relate. But they're not directly related.
It's like a
actually. Yeah.
Right. It's a optics thing.
Mhm.
It's not like a direct thing.
Totally fine with that being one of the 3. I know we didn't want to get into that, but.
Well, I mean, I do think also like, because on some maps it has a different name than it does according to the map that Bill had. So I think there's like some complicated. So I think what I would, if I may, propose in the interest of like helping move this forward, I do think it's worth getting a sense of the group being in favor of moving forward with figuring out like a renaming, reaching out to neighbors, but not getting into the weeds and the nitty gritty right here in the meeting. And we can do that at the next meeting. Because we have to do that right at a meeting. So it'll probably, I just don't know that we're quite ready yet to have the like actual set names, but that would be what I would be comfortable moving forward with right now.
So just an intentionality on the, what exactly?
To move forward with renaming.
Okay, great.
When you go talk to folks, you could solicit ideas from them to come to the next meeting, and then we have a 15-minute discussion.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I think the value that it provides to the parks that I see, honestly, CT, I'm indifferent, quite frankly, about this. And if you're passionate about it, I'm excited, you know. I think the value that I see here is that it clarifies the name, whatever it ends up being, so that we're consistent and we know what we call this piece of land.
Because we've got like 4 maps of the area, all of which have different names for it, all of which.
Yeah.
So is the motion, one motion could be to vote to move forward on clarifying the name of what we currently see on the map in front of us as South Mud Lake Open Space to whatever the new name may be. And that would be what we vote on, to move forward with that.
And public engagement on
And
it.
public engagement on it.
All right, so we are making a motion to move forward with renaming what is currently the South Mud Lake Open Space and to seek public engagement on this stuff.
I'll second that motion.
All right.
But also maybe not to rename.
I guess not even, I would say that that's not really a motion or an action item because you're not really doing anything.
Fair.
So you're basically,
It feels like.
yeah, you're going to not afford to continue forward with your renaming efforts.
Well, I would disagree with that, though. I do think it's an action item to have an agreement as a whole board that this is a project that we want to take on, and as opposed to a discussion.
You're not making an official commitment. I mean, yes, as a board, you're moving something forward, but what are you voting on? Like typically when there's a desire to do an action, you're making an official commitment. If their desire is just to keep moving this forward, it doesn't necessarily need that action component. If you wanted to vote on what your proposed names are, that would be appropriate, but to move forward with your efforts on maybe seeking names or doing the neighborhood outreach, it's really not an action to be taken.
Okay.
That's fine.
Fair.
I mean,
So then do we
I
just
still disagree, but
basically like CT, go ahead and seek public opinion or?
Well, I think it might be worth clarifying, as Brian suggested, if the board is comfortable moving forward with this. Because if it's not, we can just put up a couple signs that say South Mud Lake Open Space.
I mean, that is essentially what we're trying to clarify. Is it, like, to your point, Miranda, it may not be like an official action item, but we need to know if the board is on board.
Agreed.
So that's kind of what we're trying to do. So,
I mean, I don't want to stop you. I guess I would say, I don't, if you want to take a vote, you're more than welcome to. It's just not, I think the question is like, what are you officially deciding on? And deciding on if this is a project you want to pursue doesn't always need that official action.
Okay.
Because you're not ready to make a formal commitment of any sort.
I guess then, and to that point, let me ask then, would anyone prefer that CT not move forward with what we just discussed? And please speak up if you prefer that. Great, good then.
Okay, swell.
And also, you should certainly let us all know what help you need with, that's a lot of outreach.
Yeah, I might not get it all done before the next meeting, but we'll get it started.
I believe the next is discussion and action item on pump track.
Cool, yeah.
Friends to the right.
So, I don't know why I said that, Miranda. I just sent over an email. If you could pull up that presentation, mostly to show the exact location so that it's on the record for super clarity of where we're proposing the pump track be. And then while Miranda pulls that up, the items that I gave you were 2 different things. One was communication with the American Ramp Company, and they are the folks who essentially build the Velo Solutions track. In the United States, Velo Solutions is a foreign company, but they're able to build the tracks here. Jesse, you guys are contracting them. solutions tracks. Something like that. That part's not all that important, but they build these pump tracks. They're the ones who've been building the pump tracks in the surrounding areas like Broomfield, Erie, Firestone. They built Boulder one. And they built the one that's going on in Leadville. They're kind of the company doing them. Anything to add to that, Jesse? And their initial step is going through their design process. And so they gave us a breakdown of different budget options. And essentially at this meeting, it's super clear. What we're asking for is, if you look at that design.
But you can email stuff, that's it.
What's that called? The contract concept design package. We're asking for PROSAB. We can walk through that and ask any questions, but for PROSAB to vote to recommend that the NPDA fund the concept design package planning process that they do. Because because then the NPDA will actually be the ones who fund it, that initial round of money. Or they would vote, actually, to be clear. And then the BOT would then vote again. And so that's the process. And what that allows us to do is have an exact plan that comes out of that, of what this thing looks like, what the materials are, the layout of everything. And then from there, we could go about fundraising or raising money to engage them to do the build. Or we can then, at that point, look at other options to have, if Jesse wants to engage in some of the build, in whether it's volunteer or not, depending at this point, at this point, aspects of that, it sounds like you're interested in still, I'll let you speak to that. But what this allows us to do is go after money if we have a clear design package of what it is and submit for grants and other things that it would take, because ultimately the way that these are done, they run anywhere from 250,000 when they do them to 500,000. And I know that's a big number, but that's what all these other communities have been paying to build these pump tracks that are well designed to fund a ride and last a really, 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 really long time. And this also would allow them to engage in giving us different surface material options. And they can tell us, like, here's the mix we can do of different materials up to the point. And then the finishing surface, they've been doing these all with asphalt for the ones in areas like ours. I reached out to someone who worked at the Broomfield pump track, and I have a video I can share with you that he did for us about their maintenance schedule on their dirt pump track versus their asphalt pump track. I meant to send that, I just didn't get a chance to. And what the takeaway was, actually I have the video, I can play it, but the takeaway was that if we don't do a hard surface finished pump track and we do dirt, it's basically closed a good portion of the year because we have winter and we have rain. And so anytime that we've got snow on a dirt track, you got to wait for it to dry out. And then about every 3 weeks, they have to rebuild sections of berms at the Broomfield one. So they have a staff that's maintaining it. And then they also close it off after wet weather events, if it's dirt. So this is a little bit tangential to this, but just a description of surface materials. And so we talked about this in terms of understanding it better and wanting to understand it better. But what we've learned is that an asphalt pump track gives us the best long-term build that doesn't require as much maintenance, or basically no maintenance, except for little asphalt cracks over time that can be filled with anybody who can do basic asphalt work. And then on top of that, we put a survey out it was circulating around the time, you may have seen it, in support for the Nederland pump track. And we've got, I have it up in front of me, we have 167 people who they support the pump track, and that's not including the family members in their home. They put the number of family members. I'll share that with everybody as well. It's all the comments, and everybody put their name on and said, hey, this is who I am, this is who I support. So there's like 167 comments, so I'm not gonna read them all, but people are excited about it. And so we wanted to just get clarity, like overall, does the community, is there support in the community for this as well, even though it's in the Envision 2030 in support of bikes? Nikki, is it safe to say you're excited about a pump track?
If I could get this done like in the next couple of months, I would be very sad.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
And so the money that we're asking for is up to,
Don't forget your map.
hey, Bill.
Thank you, Jason.
Perfect.
Good job.
What Jesse and I are asking, since we've been spearheading this project, is we're asking for up to, that we vote as PROSAB to fund up to $15,000 to do the concept package. They have, if we start to pull things out of there, there is the potential to bring that down. But I think that number allows us to get the full design package that we want to then go raise the money to do this, because we're gonna have to go raise some money, is what it boils down to, most likely.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Is there, it says review location and I can't see that very well. I'm
Oh,
so sorry,
yeah.
I'm kind of nearsighted, but it's
There's
the
another-
Chipeta locations.
Yeah. So that's in their design package. They do, like, they help you through some of the stuff we've already done. So they'll kind of do this whole deal if we want, but we don't need all of those aspects, which is where we have the ability to potentially bring that budget down and not spend the entire 15,000. But I think it's worth putting that number on it so we're not handicapped in moving it forward. And then do our best to bring it down as much as we can. Any questions? So that's the questions there. I also want to show Miranda. So that's real quick. That's the location. Take a look at that. If you hadn't had a chance to walk out there with us when we were doing it. A little while back. Go one back. Let's look at the Chipeta one again. Sorry.
This one or the other one?
The other one.
Okay.
So that's the location. So I think that's super important just to be super clear on. And then Nikki's walked that with us. Nikki, any comments or just like clarity on that?
Just a little bit of clarity.
Yeah.
So, if you see that, I guess you would call it the top section of that little shape that is. The top section, that where I call it Bull Mountain. Any of you have been with me to Chipeta Park, Bull Mountain? We have to be careful for Bull Mountain because there are 2 sewer mains in there. So we have to make sure that when we're designing, that we're aware of where we always have to dig up those sewer mains.
Yeah, there's another consideration. There's an access road that always needs to be maintained as part of that for safety and stocking and stuff. And so that is part of the considerations. And I'll say in this discussion, just on the record, that whatever Nikki's needs are with the Parks Department, they influence the design entirely. And you've walked that section, so you're aware of it. So I just wanted to put that in there so it's known. Any location questions?
Oh, this would be tied to location, like once the design package is.
Yeah, so they're gonna take this exact location. And I mean, we could probably like vote, if we wanted to, like before they started, but.
Right, before it's in the works.
Once it's in the works, they're designing for that location.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Miranda, can you go to just a picture? So let's go to another one. That one. So that's like a visual example of the pump tracks they're building. Obviously that has greenery in the middle. Jesse, you feel pretty comfortable that like drainage wise, how to guide that so that we could actually experience greenery if we wanted, or we could xeriscape it. We've got options there. We could I mean, Jesse, you'll speak to that. I don't know.
Yes.
Okay. Well, like maybe we could have wildflowers in the middle, if people don't ride through them, I don't know, one of the big benefits of going with them is that they're the top designers right now in the country. They're the ones doing all the tracks around our area. So they know soils we're working with already. They've designed in the area. They've worked in our county before, technically, which is cool. And they make really fun to ride pump tracks. So that's also very important. Any questions? So just re-clarify, what I'm proposing is a motion to vote that we recommend that the NDDA fund up to $15,000 for the design package of the pump track, or that they vote to fund that so the BOT can fund it. Sorry.
Hey, thanks for that, Sam. Have you engaged the NDDA? Like, are they generally in favor of forking out 15K to fund this?
Yeah, so we've met with members of the NDDA and given them the budget ranges from 9 to 15, and not with every member, to be clear. I met with Tanya Cortland, and she is excited about it, and so she was excited to bring this to the NDDA and be a champion for them on this, and that's the extent of it in that regard. But she did say if we voted on it, she felt that it would be helpful for them because they're basically looking to us as the Parks and Open Space Advisory Board, saying, what do you guys want? You know? And they happen to have the money around it to be able to do it. Ralph, like we don't, you know, as a board. Do you have anything to add, Justin? All right. Brian, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I just wanted to have a little bit of clarity around whether it'd be presumptuous of us to vote on this and say, hey, DDA, we just decided that you should vote on this too, without having had a chat beforehand.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Can I just offer cautionary tale? The DEA does not have budgeted funds for this. So what you are asking them to do is to create a supplemental budget and free up funds for this. So
Okay,
you're asking a bit larger than just will you invest in this, because they're going to need to revisit their budget.
And then with it, so that's good clarity.
So it's a little bit more, you'll have a lot of extra steps, unfortunately, involved in this, because supplemental budgets will have to go before the board, back and forth a few times.
So they have access to funds if they adjust the current setups, technically.
Correct.
That's good clarification. Yeah. That didn't.
One option
Yeah.
that, if people are okay with it, I don't want to like complicate the vote, but it may be offer you more flexibility for asking for our just general support for going and requesting funds for this, including from the EDA, but you may need to go to a couple of different spots. Like if it doesn't work, or you know what I mean?
Like if you're like, hey, we'll do a quarter of it,
Exactly.
something like that. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Start fundraising.
Essentially what they're looking for is like, it helps them if we go, yeah, PROSAB wants it. Whatever it is, like that PROSAB wants a pump track. And so what I was trying to do is be just specific with the amount so that we're all had some clarity going into it. But I'm totally open to that being the approach, that PROSAB, basically a motion
To support going and fundraising for this.
Right. And that PROSAB wants a pump track to happen and wants to see that move forward. Because ultimately, we're not voting on any budget here. It's the other boards that have to do the design package. So that's fine with me.
I have a quick question for Miranda, and that is, I think this was sparked by my initial offer to build some trails in town, and Sam organized a meeting. Sam was wise and invited Nikki to that meeting, and Nikki got Sam and I and the rest of us who were there excited also about a pump track in addition to trails. So in many respects, I feel that this, in large part, stems back to that initial conversation and is in many ways a moment of inspiration, if you will, from Nikki. And Sam and I got excited about it. We took the ball and we've been running with it. And I was kind of like, well, can we just go to the BOT and try to build a pump track? And Miranda was saying, no, we have a process in place. It's called the Nederland planning process, NPP for short. And anytime we're wanting to add a park or an asset to the town, we have to go through this Nederland planning process. So here we are, and basically this is our first stop of many amongst all the boards before we get to the BOT. And I feel like Sam and I keep kind of going back to the drawing board, trying to get through step one. And so my question to Miranda and to everyone else, I guess, but mostly to you, Miranda, is like, what is our win at this stopping point in the NPP that we can then move on and go talk to other boards? You know, what would be our best takeaway for us to say, okay, we stopped at PROSAB and now we're moving on to the DDA, to the SAB, and to the all the rest of them before we get to the BOT.
I think that, well, I think that I think you're ready if you want to run the process, but one of the questions that's going to come up for you is, are you funding it? And so I caution you going before SAB because they're going to ask you that same question. And if you're not ready to share how you're going to fund it, they're probably not going to recommend approval for it. So getting your funding is the right way to go. And what you could get is the NDDA to commit to you to work through their supplemental budget and the whole, while you also then run it through SAB and Youth Planning Commission.
Well, getting funding is a lot of work, as Jason and you know, so I don't want to go and do all that work and then have the DOT or anybody else say, meh.
It's really up to you. I just know, knowing SAB is always hesitant to want to give their green light when they don't know how you're going to fund it. So.
I don't know how we're going to fund it.
Well, it's not like you're going to try to fund it through the DDA.
Well, we're going to try the fund, so to be clear, just the design portion. That's what we're asking for. And then the build will have to be, money will have to be raised, or we'll have to look at the fund sources.
We can look at grants and we can do some fundraising, but that's, if we don't know what we're raising money for, that's what the design is for, so we can actually show something other than that shape that I drew there.
I mean, it might be helpful. I want to move to vote on what you guys want us to vote on. But I think if you go for, if others are interested in funding, you could identify just hypothetical grants that you would apply for and show that one of their requirements is having this design. So you have this kind of like concrete tie, like we're not just asking for 15K and throwing it in the toilet, like it's actually to get us to a next step. I think that would be really helpful.
I think it's good.
So can I move to
here?
Yeah. And I guess I'll just say, like, I think the pump track has become like the bogeyman of like a lot of things. And I think like as a board, we should be very committed to open spaces and recreation and that's like, as a lot of people have said tonight, like the future of Ned are those amenities. So I kind of like want to reject the bogeyman framing of the pump track, and I will move to.
That's appreciated.
Yeah, I will move to recommend to the DDA that they fund it, or that we seek funding for it.
Okay.
Thanks. Yeah.
Second.
All right, let's just go around the table. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Passes. Thank you all for putting together a really just straightforward and
all that work. Survey.
and for doing all this, obviously, but this too.
Which, by the way, if you want to do something like these surveys are amazing to get people's like comments and excitement around it. And, you know, then people have committed on this survey to show up for support for different meetings to help make it happen, or show up and support and volunteer in person. We got lists. It was pretty incredible.
Exactly.
Yeah, and we asked, like, would you like to be emailed about updates?
That's great.
Can I just offer, so I'll send you an email about how to get on the DDA's agenda.
Cool.
I want to strongly encourage you when you prepare your presentation, you need to tell them why this is valuable to them, why it's valuable to their businesses, because they're not going to fund it if you can't tie it back to their core mission. So I would also encourage you to look at their master plan and try to pull whatever language you can out of there that ties back to why this is vital, important for them.
That's great. Yeah, we'll definitely do that.
Gotcha.
Thanks, Mom.
All right, so there is a discussion and action item dog park, and I don't know.
I don't know why I have action in there. That should just be discussion item, but it could be I mean, it's a little premature for your dog park, but Jesse would like this.
Well, there's a discussion item, and this was requested by Jill. she's retiring teacher from the Nederland Elementary School, and she's had a profound effect on my daughter, and I know many people for years and years who've grown up here. Do you know her name, Nikki?
Miss Jill.
Yes, Miss Jill. I mean, you don't know Miss Jill, you need to know Miss Jill. And yes, she's awesome. I would think naming a dog park after her would be fantastic. And she asked if she could sponsor a dog park. And I don't know what that means, but my wife Angela was just recently saying how nice it would be if we did have a dog park somewhere that the dogs could mingle and socialize, and where people could also visit and socialize. It's not the bar, and it's just kind of a nice thing for the community. And so it was kind of serendipitous, and I saw that email come through from Miss Jill asking if she could sponsor a dog park. I don't know what that means, but I thought it would be worthwhile for us to consider that as an asset that we might like to add to the portfolio of assets that is parks and recreation in Nederland. So I, for one, am in support of such a thing. So it's for me, it's worth us discussing as a board. So I encourage Miranda to put it on here as a discussion item.
Said that everyone in there has 2 dogs. I think that might be close to true. You could actually count it up. It's just what town needs. Makes a really good idea. It's something I've heard from pretty much everyone I've talked to and mentioned, oh yeah. So I think it's a wonderful idea. The perennial question though, where's it going to be and how's it going to be maintained? It's the line between wonderful community resource and a smelly eyesore is all about location and a good maintenance plan. So top of mind.
I'll just add that I'm in support of it. Like a lot of people, I know my brother, he'll like drive down to Boulder and take his dog to the dog park sometimes, and it's a place you can take your dog where it doesn't get eaten by a mountain lion.
Yes.
Recently, and
Got the name of the dog park.
there you go. And then I think we should ask Nikki, do you have any obvious places we should?
I got a lot I can say in the dog park. You guys can talk to me one-on-one if you want. Because this is not the first board that is discussing a dog park. It has been discussed literally every board.
Yeah.
They run across the NIMBA, down in my backyard. That one. And in every one of our pocket parks.
Okay.
We had a lot of, we made a lot of headway on a couple of different areas. Angel Park, which is the one that is close to the Eldora turn. That was one area that had a lot of motivation behind it, not a lot of protest behind it. Another area was down by Rodeo Court in the Barker, or in the Big Springs Park area. That one actually had a lot of support from the city of Boulder, because the city of Boulder, they live overlooking the reservoir and literally are watching people with their dogs off leash, running and pooping near the reservoir and stuff. And so they actually had, at one point in time, even offered to help try and pay for some of the fencing and stuff. That was one of their maintenance guys. That wasn't like no city of Boulder BOT member told me they were going to give me money, but there was a lot of motivation behind it. I ran into a lot of, every day, if I'm down in the parks, every day somebody will say, we want a dog park. It is popular. But you get the naysayers, and some of the things that I've had people tell me are, well, people are gonna drop their dogs off there and leave, like, the dog park is gonna become like doggy daycare. I had people protesting, disease, sicknesses, illnesses, things like that, people that don't pick up poop. How are you gonna get your water there? So I went down to City of Boulder and I toured a bunch of their dog parks down there.
Oh, yeah.
And, they put up shelves and they have, you know, gallons of empty gallons that they put out on the shelves. And people in the neighborhood actually take the gallons home, fill them up, bring them in full, and as they're leaving, they take it empty. The city of Boulder has found that with the dog parks, they're finding way less poop that people aren't picking up because it's kind of like you're being watched, so you feel more responsible about picking up your poop or putting your cart away if you're being watched. So they actually found that it alleviated their maintenance problems with dogs. Most of the people there are very responsible dog owners. They weren't bringing sick dogs. They require tags, you know, that kind of stuff. So I'm all about it. I have nothing but respect for it. And the couple of people that I have in this community that will tell you they don't want it, they're pretty vocal. So be prepared for the ones that are vocal, because they're the ones who got me shot down every single time in the past. But I'm all about it. Angel Park, Old Town. The problem is that the people in each one of those different neighborhoods have their own pocket parks. We've got Joe Smith Park, and we have Tom Riley Park and Flaherty Park, all in one little neighborhood. We have Angel Park and Tilden Park down in Old Town. We have Big Springs Park for the Big Springs neighborhood. But Big Springs Park, people don't want Old Town people bringing their dogs over to Big Springs. Old Town people don't want Sunnyside neighbor bringing their dogs down to Old Town. So,
Well, it's gotta go somewhere if we're gonna do it.
It's
you know.
gotta go somewhere.
I mean, that's sort of the deal with town.
That's true.
1502 or something? 1502?
What's the acreage that's available on the one, you said by outdoor, that like?
Angel Park is not an acreage. It's about as big as this room, if not a little smaller.
Okay, because
That's-
bigger is better for dog parks, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. This would be a little one.
Angel Park did come up in the charrettes as a dog park. I don't know.
Did it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something, and Annette Caldwell, when she lived here in town, she made quite a bit of headway on getting Angel a dog park status.
Yeah.
For the Old Town residents.
Yeah, I mean, I think
We don't have a park where your dog is gonna go off leash and run for a mile. We don't have that.
yeah,
That's okay too. I mean, just a dog park is good.
Yeah, we don't have like
Something's better than nothing, for sure.
Evergreen, they've got, I think, expansive dog park is really, really. Yeah.
I do remember seeing a lot of discussion, like about failed efforts to sort of get dog parks going on the various, you know, social medias. So I do think like it's an amazing offer, depending on what it means. And it would require whoever's interested to sort of start the process of figuring out how to make it happen. I think.
Yeah. One thing we could do is like that survey seemed really easy to do and effective to get some input from folks. And I would be happy to put one together for dog park and just put some options on there and people could submit and then we could get an idea and some comments and.
Like dog park has to go through the same MPP as the
Yeah.
pump track. So it's like you have to go to every single board to talk about dog park, just to clarify.
Yeah, because it would be, it's considered the creation of a recreational asset of sorts.
Even though it's an existing park or could be an existing park.
Or if you're just gonna develop it out.
In the name, so you think.
Or if you're gonna take it away from other recreational uses to dedicate it to a dog park, so it wouldn't need to go through the same process.
How much would it cost to build a dog park?
Depends on how big the park was, due to the, fencing. That's it.
Fencing and some food bags and some trash cans.
Food bags and the dispensers are pretty cheap. I mean, for a dispenser and 1,500 bags, you're talking a couple $100.
What about a water tap?
So water tap would be, well, I'd have to talk to the town. That could be tough.
Do you know somebody?
But I think there's some people. The fencing, that's the biggest cost for sure. And then, trying to, I don't want to put like a little ramp or something in there for them.
Some things, yeah.
Yeah, some things, depending on the size of the park, maybe just one thing if it was Angel Park. maybe it would be one or two things, a little tube or something.
Do you need a water tap for it? You feel it?
You don't have to, like, so, like I said, the city of Boulder has one, it's a dog park they have in their South Boulder area, they put out a shelf and they put out gallon jugs. And
I filled one of those in Lafayette before when you lived down there.
Yeah, and people just take them home and fill them and then they bring them back full. And so, and some people bring two. So, you know, it's just, they can be self-sustaining.
Well,
I think it's minimal cost. I think for the cost of fencing a room this size, whatever that would be.
it does seem like there's pretty unanimous support behind the idea. But I think before we go too far with it, we should make an effort to reach out to at least some folks we know with the other boards to see if there's an appetite with them too. Because if we're the only ones trying to haul this water, we're not going to get there. So maybe we should open this up to other boards sooner rather than later in the process.
So I think let's close this topic out for tonight so we can finish up with the staff report. But is there someone who would like to follow? I don't want to assume it's you since you came with the message, but is there someone on the board who will take point on following up on this question?
I mean, I'm happy to. It's like I'm already talking about living boards anyways.
I
like seriously, I don't mind. It's not that hard
I
to do.
just feel like you need someone really passionate about, so like Sam's passionate about bikes. And
Yeah.
I don't know.
I've got dogs too.
I mean, I have dogs, I just don't take them to the dog park, so. Like,
I know my brother does, so
Yeah.
you know.
I would be happy to do it, but my outreach efforts are going to be confined to my neighborhood for a short time being.
I'm happy to run with it. It's obviously this like survey approach. I'm already talking to people. I think it's totally doable, and I do think it's a valuable thing in the community to have. So that's like,
be driven by a community member, like if there's a group of community members passionate about dog parks, which I think is
Yeah.
great. Like, we are willing to facilitate that, but like, does it have to be driven by a board member?
good point.
No, and I guess I would just say,
Yeah.
you know, my,
Like recommended not be,
Yeah.
so strongly.
yeah, I would agree. You know, my one concern is like, you can't just talk to members of boards because that's not majority. Like, you really have to go to their board meetings because, you know, it's kind of like the DDA. Tanya doesn't represent this 8 others.
No, she hasn't. We've had-
I worry about, you know, just talking to a handful and then not
Yeah.
getting, and then you getting shut down when you go to the whole
Yeah.
board because you haven't done the whole board.
Yeah, I think what I meant by someone who would take point on it would be following up with the person who's
Mhm.
interested and figuring out what that interest looks like.
Yeah,
And that's all,
that's a good idea.
like not going any further and finding out what sponsor means to this person.
That's always just the next step. Like, show us sponsor. What's that mean?
Sure, I'll invite her to a conversation and call her on, talk to her.
Cool, thanks. Thank you. Okay, so we have work session on PROSAB goals on here. I do think that's still super important. I think, why don't I just like touch base, with Miranda or whoever to figure out like a couple of times we can put on the calendar to talk about that outside of these meetings. Does that sound okay to people?
Yeah.
Sweet. And that. Yeah, no, I do think it's really important. So like, and some, like at least like an initial one in the next like 6 weeks or something like that. Okay, cool,
Yeah, absolutely. Super cool.
awesome. All right, Nikki. Put the spotlight on Nikki.
This is everyone else. All right, so I have decided, Miranda inspired me. First thing I want to make an acknowledgement is that, our town staff recently had a really big deal. We now have a doctor on staff,
Oh, yes.
Miss Miranda Fisher.
Yeah.
Yep, and,
Right?
I've been telling her to tell everybody that she's being shy,
So
so,
now we call her Dr. Fisher.
yeah.
It is official, yeah. So I can just say, I defended my doctoral dissertation on Tuesday and received confirmation that my title is officially Dr. Miranda Fisher.
Congratulations.
It's Dr. Fisher to use.
Yeah.
That's right.
So, I'm very, very proud of her and I am, super psyched that I can say she's my boss, so. Inspired by the doctor, I have decided to start giving you guys regular staff reports. I don't know if you want them every month. I put them in the VOT packets every month anyway. But for PROSAB, I figured I'd give you a little bit of an extra version on more in-depth version of the staff and what we're doing, so that you guys are aware of how many different projects are happening, and so that you guys aren't trying to overplan me. All right, so this, the big one for the next couple of weeks is Netter Days. As you may or may not have heard about Netter Days, it is a chance for the local businesses to host an activity. A lot of the proceeds are going to go into the Nederland Parks Scholarship Fund. So I created a fund where youth who are in need, if they want to, any youth in the Nederland Gilpin school districts, including homeschool kids, if they want to go to camp, there shouldn't be a reason financially why they can't go to camp or go to attend a program, be in hockey or football or whatever it is. They can write a letter, their teacher, their parent, whomever can write a letter requesting funding from the Nederland Parks Department, and each letter will be considered case by case.
Right.
So all of the funding, not all of the funding, but many of the fundings from the proceeds from the sled race and the clothing sales, after we break even, will go into this scholarship fund. So buy a beanie or a t-shirt or questions. Nederland Parks in February hosted an all-staff get-together at the rink. We invited all VOT, PROSAB, etc. members. Jesse was there, Eric Combs Esmo was there. I was bummed that no Wheels from PROSAB was there.
I was supposed to be there, but
I know y'all got lives and stuff, but I really was looking forward to showing off my asset, which leads me into a segue of take a tour. If you haven't had my tour, Kat has had the tour too many times to count. She can't have it again. But everybody else, if you haven't had my tour, please take the tour. Come get a hold of me. I will make time for you to show you around town, to show you the parks and trails and assets that you are talking about on a daily basis. And I will show you them from the working person's standpoint. If you're really, really lucky, we'll get to the cemetery that day and I'll give you the whole cemetery tour. That's one of my faves. So, please take a tour, get a hold of me. I will make time for you. We can start in your neighborhood. I'll drive you around, whatever it takes. I just really want you to know the parks and trails that you guys are talking about. All right, so we have been doing with Kat and Alex, and Miranda, talking about the PROSAB master plan update. Wanted to make a quick clarification, like Kat did earlier. They are not rewriting our PROSAB plan. They're not rewriting the master plan for us. They are merely updating a few different pieces of it so that we can update the PROSAB plan. That'll be on us. What we do after Sarah and Amanda have done all of their fine work, those steps we'll have to figure those out later. We are working with the Boulder Watershed Collective and Larimer County Conservation Corps trying to get some mitigation stuff done this year. I've been working on trying to get mitigation grants for many, many years. This year it looks like it might actually happen. Also, last year, if you remember Mark Hall, when Mark Hall was my parks lead, he's now streets manager. When he was my parks lead, I sent him to firefighters and mitigation training camp. And so he is like a class 2 wildland firefighter. So our teams are going to be doing bi-monthly or monthly chainsaw days where we work on our own chainsaws trainings, skills, and in the meantime, and also beneficially trying to mitigate areas around town, specifically the rink, the front area of the rink. If we're gonna basically clear cut a tiny little spot for parking. And eventually we're redesigning that parking lot currently to put the tennis courts in the parking lot, move the parking lot, so we're gonna do some mitigation there. I wish Phil had stayed, because one of the pieces that we are tackling this year is the blowdown that's in the North Joe Smith, South Mud Lake, and Forest Park area. However you'd like to refer to it as, we are actually tackling some of that this year with the help of Boulder Watershed Collective and Larimer County Conservation Corps. Hopefully I'll get them for a couple of days. Haven't heard definitively if I'll get them for a couple of days or a few weeks. Also, the Town of Nederland extension request for GoCo was approved. Yeah, who is right, because I would have had to spend about $45,000 by the end of March. So, interest to you, this, Barker Meadows Park is the area down by the reservoir. The completion date is now September 30th. My personal goal completion date, you wanna know it, or should I not tell you? I probably should not tell you. My personal goal is to have the park finished by July 1st. I have too many other things that have to happen, and I cannot tell you how badly I want to wash my hands of this park. I think it was, and I signed up for it, I helped with it, and write it and everything, but it is way too much for a tiny team to take on a $284,000 grant, especially when you put a festival on top of it.
Yeah.
That ruined $68,000 worth of work. So, I have volunteer days, and I'm hopeful that you guys will sign up for these volunteer days. I've got 5 of them. I'll be sending around, probably just send out an email to the boards and stuff, trying to get help on those days. Some of the items that are left to be done, the installation of the drip lines for the irrigation, the installation of the information with science benches and dog waste stations, completions of some of the trails, soil amending and hydro seeding of the field, which is scheduled for May 1st, and planting of the rest of the trees. Some of the trees are scheduled to be, the big trees are scheduled to be planted in April. Bushes and perennials. Another thing that's happening is the cemetery, has the Historical Society got a kind of a grant with the cemetery, and I've got a guy who's put all of my headstones on a map, and the eventual map, you'll be able to hover over the points on the map and pull up that grave, and it'll tell you the birth and death dates of that person and if we have any stories about them. I can't tell you what that means to me. I've been wanting that for 9 years. Our poor little cemetery is so neglected. It's part of why I got hired. I was hired part-time to do Chipeta Park in the cemetery. And after 6 months with the town, Chris Peltier, when he became the interim public works director, he said, "You're only spending 1% of your time in the cemetery." I think it's probably less than that. And I can do it on my volunteer days. Like my own personal, I come in on my days off and go to the cemetery. This is my favorite place. We are trying to work on ADA compliance all around town on a regular basis. Some of the things that we really want to see happen are sidewalks. The completion of the sidewalks that are the crush-a-fine sidewalks on 2nd Street. Actually, I had a meeting with CDOT today, talking about potential grant that we could potentially get, to redo some of the sidewalks. Even if we don't get that grant, I still want to work on some of the taking out the crusher fines out of the sidewalks and putting in concrete.
Yeah.
Those crusher fine sidewalks are a nightmare. Something to consider, the Chipeta Park playground is not ADA compliant, but our playground equipment is past its warranties, I guess you could say. Playground equipment is expected to last 10 to 15 years. The big play set is 15 and the little play set is 13. So, and we are starting to see the maintenance overtaking us. So I'm constantly looking for grants to redo playgrounds, specifically to do the surface of the playground, because pea gravel is the most unfriendly ADA material that you can have. So to redo the surface and then to get new playground equipment, I'm looking for goals on a regular basis. If ever you guys are come across a goal or grant that's for a playground, please let me know. I'm also looking to have the tennis courts and pickleball courts resurfaced this summer. I got a quote from, there are 2 companies in Denver that resurface tennis courts and pickleball courts, 2. And one of them is booked until next year, and the other one, who did our courts in the past, quoted me for the entire surface, which would include 2 tennis courts, but 6 pickleball courts, because you can paint pickleball lines on top of the tennis lines. So the quote for all of the rink area was $35,000. I had originally budgeted part of that into my parks maintenance budget anyway, but not 35,000. So look for the Parks Department coming to you to ask if she can use part of the conservation funds for the tennis court resurfacing. I believe that's all for now, and yeah, I think.
And Nikki, Alex was looking, and Jesse, Alex was looking for an update on the IMBA conference, so maybe we can do that, and then I've got 2 after you're done.
Okay,
I just wanted to close this.
we're going. Who's going on vacay? No.
Yeah, no, I'm recording. It's tracked.
It's gonna be a disaster.
That's going on Facebook. Oh, I forgot. I forgot I was still sharing the screen.
So
Sorry,
I.
Brittany.
Did you book the same flight?
Well, you're both going to?
Yeah.
So basically the board.
The board
That's
Jesse.
what you're going to, because it was a contingent offer.
There was some nasty emails Jesse got. Doesn't matter, but it's like exciting that it moved through. So seeing that kind of knowledge brought back into the community.
I'm very excited about bringing the knowledge home. I am. I'm also excited to see the Walmart Museum. There's a Walmart Museum. But I am very excited. I am. It's like a jam-packed session, but my flight, my hotel is booked now.
It's awesome.
So, yeah, I will probably next month be bringing you an update on what happened at the conference.
That'll be exciting to hear.
Yeah, sounds great. And then the only,
I've got 2. What? Yes.
I was gonna say, the only other thing that you said might fold into Nikki's update was the Big Springs egress.
Yep, so the Big Springs egress request for proposal will go before the Board of Trustees for approval on March 21st. We'll then release it on March 22nd. Applications have a submittal date of April 19th. As town staff, we will then review and offer our recommendation on who we feel the board to contract with. They will make their selection on May 2nd, and we'll have the contract by mid-May. The Big Springs egress study has to be completed by August 2025. So that's that. My only other update is we're working on the Colorado Wildfire Protection Plan update. And originally we'd asked for 2 PROSAB members to support with that effort. It was Eric and Jesse. So we need 2 more. We would ask that it is only 2 because there are a lot of other people in this meeting and we don't want to publicize every one of their meetings. But we see a lot of value in having PROSAB members 1 to 2 join. The meetings are varying. We hope to land on a set date and time, but it will be working alongside Net Fire, Timberline, Boulder County, Forest Service, anyone and everyone feels like. And the Ember Alliance was awarded the grant from Boulder Watershed Collective to do this CWPP update. So I'm just wondering if there's any board members who are very eager to join that.
Volunteer.
Great. You go with CT holding down the fort.
Yeah, totally. Thank you.
That's awesome. So once I have more, I'll send you CT the most recent email I have, but then once the doodle poll comes out, we'll send it your way.
Thank you.
All right, I think we may have reached the end of our marathon agenda. Is there anything else?
I'm very glad I just have two more things. So Supervisor, a couple staff changes. Troy Hendricks was our police and court clerk. We really wanted to keep him on despite the Boulder County taking over the police department. Troy is now our emergency and court clerk administrator. The emergency side of that is he will do all things emergency planning. So he will update our emergency operations plan that I started. He will take over the Big Springs Egress Grant. He will work on evacuation routes for every neighborhood in Nederland. He will also do trainings for community members on emergency preparedness. Troy has 24 years of law enforcement experience, and so he, not only do we not want to lose him, he is the most appropriate person to provide this level of support to the town. So the town, for the first time ever, has a dedicated emergency administrator. So that's really exciting. Other thing is, tomorrow morning we'll be making an internal offer for a public engagement manager. And that person's sole job will be to help push out information. So they'll be very in tune with what PROSAB is doing and trying to push out messages rather than being responsive to everything. So it's not just social media, but really being engaged in a lot more of the community forums and just trying to get ahead of the messages. There's so much going on, and you often don't know about it unless you know one of us. So we will be making that offer tomorrow morning to an internal candidate.
That's exciting.
And from what I understand, that's like a pretty big deal for y'all after
I think
attending the joint board dinner. It sounded like a pretty big.
Yeah, it's a really big deal. You know, I'd wanted to put it in I put it in the 2023 budget. I had to pull it out because the budget was in such rough shape due to the police department. And once we got the taxes, we still weren't in the right space, but they kind of made a huge ask of the board to commit, and they unanimously approved moving forward with the position. And I just think for me, this position goes such a long way in helping our community really grow together, to continue to develop what we're working on, but for people to stop feeling like letting the rumor mill kind of run the world. People can feel like they're not in the dark. We have a dedicated staff member whose job is to just push the messages out and share all the incredible things that you all are doing, town staff and the other boards. So very excited about that job.
That's awesome. Great.
Can I make one quick comment on Nikki's staff report? It was very good, and thank you for all that hard work that you're doing. And when you started, your opening line was something to the effect of, Miranda inspired me to give you all. And then I, in my mind, finished the sentence for you, and I thought, assignments. And you said a staff report instead. But,
Only it works.
yeah, so, but maybe, you know, I mean, there might be opportunity for us to, because we are a 7-person advisory board and 8 with Casey, and you're a 3 to 4 person team, and you've mentioned that we can sign up for your volunteer days, but there may be other special assignments that one of us could take on and do some legwork in the background, things that could help your department advance, strategic moves, things of that nature. So that would be another way in which you could stay ahead of us in terms of us not over planning you. The staff report is great, but I've been talking with Miranda a lot about this, just about how we as a citizenry could be most supportive of the success of our town staff, because ultimately that's why we're all here, and that's ultimately what we're trying to do, is be supportive and to create the environment within which you guys can perform at your best and have a successful, great experience of serving our town, because, we appreciate it so much. And there's things we can do, but if we don't kind of like a dog, if we don't have a job, we're going to just chew up the furniture. So something to think about, So that's all I have. Thank you for your report.
Motion to end the meeting?
Great comment. Yes. Motion. Anyone want to second that?
Second.
All right. Oh, wait. Where do I hit it?
Yeah.
Where?
Yay.